morning. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Well, it's another day going to work. I tried to leave my house early today because it said there is possible snow and I just, want to take it easy. November 6th. Today is November 6th, which usually the first snow that we get is on November 13th. Year after year after year has been a very constant November 13th that we get the first snow. I remember it because it's my daughter's birthday. So it's like, okay, November 13th, we're going to get the first, snow. But I don't think it's, going to do anything today. But I wanted to take a little bit, extra time to just get to my work safe. Let me turn you around because the sky is just absolutely stunning. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my goodness. The picture doesn't do justice, I tell ya. It's a beautiful sight. Anyways, I said on my previous videos that I wanted to talk about my dad. I have the windshield wipers are on auto, so I think I have to figure out a way how to turn it off so it won't be popping up every time. Anyways, I wanted to talk about my father. He was a very, very smart guy. He was born September 13th, 1915. So he saw history happen, He came from a place called Copan in Honduras. He was a full Mayan Indian. He was it, man. That's why I am 43% Mayan Indian, which I'm very proud of. But he was born in Copan, and that's where the Mayan, civilization had a very strong hold in Central America. Very smart people. The Mayan Indians were the one that came up with the number 0. You can thank me later. But he was born in 1915. He was a very smart guy, very short in stature. He was a very short man. But man, his mind had great capacity. He never went to school, but he taught himself how to read and write, and he had the most amazing calligraphy. He would write in block letters, and he will, just always. I remember in all the walls in our house, there used to be these little certificates, because he will take classes via mail. So he was always mailing stuff and getting certificates in the mail, and always learning something. He was always studying, whether it was scientific stuff or the gospel. So he had, I don't know how he found these places to study. I really don't know. Well, that's a good, interesting question. Let me turn you back around. So I don't know how he found these places to study, but he was always getting certificates in the mail of things that, he had studied, and he was getting the diploma. So he was very smart. His whole entire family, from his side of the family, they're all, very smart people. We have attorneys, we have doctors, you name it, we have it in his lineage. And so I think maybe that's why, I get my thirst for learning. But he was, when my mother and my father met, my mother was divorced. She already had 5 children. And they went on to have 5 more. I am second to last. But he was always working, he worked for the sugar company. And he provided to everyone. He provided to, my mother's other children, up to the point when I remember, because my older siblings there was a big gap, 20 years or so, 25 years or so, from my older siblings to me. So I remember when I was a kid, some of my older siblings were already married. Maybe I was like 12, 15 years old. They were already, some of them were already married. And I remember when my father got paid on Friday, we'll give the money to my mom. My mom will go to the grocery store and buy extra groceries and put bags of groceries aside for her sons that were already married with families. She was my father. No, it wasn't she. It was my father who always provided for everyone, even the ones that were already married and on their own. My mother will find a way to, buy them groceries with my dad's money. But I guess my father, never really complained. And if he complained about it, I never knew. So from his side of the family, I met a few of them a few years ago. And, I met a doctor. I met an attorney. They're all, that side of the family is pretty smart, man. They are all with degrees. But my father was he was what kept us together, And I remember in 1975, there was a hurricane called Fifi, F-I-F-I. You can Google it if you want to. But anyways, there was a hurricane, and we lived on the side of the road that it was in a lower elevation. So my father wakes up in the middle of the night and steps into water. And he says, "Who left a bucket of water here by my bed?" And takes a few more steps. And the water was already to his knees. So he wakes us all up. This was around maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. Wakes us all up, and we all bundle up in the sheets, and whatever we could grab, and went and stood by the road while we watch our house get flooded. So we started mobilizing, and we ended up going to the school building, and we lived there for 3 months. Each family had their own little section separated by bed sheets. One of my older brothers, he was working someplace, the midnight shift at a banana company, I think it was. And he got caught in the flood. So him and another guy. So he was trying to make it home and he couldn't make it home. So he climbed an electrical pole, and they just hang on there through the early hours of the morning. And he survived and everything, but he told us later that the ants were biting them so bad, and because the ants were trying to find a safe spot as well. So they hung on to that pole, being eaten by ants, and until somebody came over and rescued them. But so without my father getting up in the middle of the night, I don't know what would have happened to us, because that flood came fast and furious. By the morning, I want to say 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, you couldn't see our house. That the water was to the roof. We could only see the roof of the house. So the entire house was gone. Everything that we owned was gone. So it was pretty traumatic situation for me, because I was still a kid. That's why I don't like frogs, because I remember months of just listening to frogs and ribbit, So I don't like frogs. But back to my father. He would study. Oh, and also he taught himself how to play the guitar. And let me tell you, when my father played the guitar, it was something else. Oh my gosh. He would play those strings and with so much passion that he will break the strings. But he played the guitar with so much passion, and it was like, I remember being a little kid and just listening to him, like just stood there, like I couldn't move, just listening to him play the guitar. So someone who never went to school and taught himself how to read and write, taught himself how to play the guitar. He was an amazing man. I remember when I first moved to the United States, he would send me letters. Somewhere in my house, I still have, letters from him. And he would tell me the prices of the groceries, how much they went up. He will tell me, a pan of this is this much, and it used to be this much. A pan of this is this much now, and it used to be this much. He would always tell me that. When he passed away, what happened to him was my little sister was still in Honduras, and he was trying to build her a house, I think. And he was on the roof, and he fell. He was, older, maybe in his 70s. And he tried to fix the roof or build a roof. And he fell, and he was never able to recuperate from that. Now, when I moved up here, I bought a house down there in the, upper part of the town. And, a simple home. I think it was 2 bedrooms. But, better from the standards of the house that I grew up in. And my mother moved to that new house and left my father in the old house. My mother and I have never gotten along. Not too many years ago, I think I want to say 2016, 2017, last time I went to Honduras. I wanted to put the house in my name. And she told, I said, it's time for me to, because the house, when I bought it, my mother put it on her name. So I said, I'm here. I want to put the house in my name because this way, there's always a home that we can come to. We don't have to stay with somebody else, or any of my siblings can come over. My kids can come over if they want to come over, spend the summer, and they have a place to stay. And she said to me, nope, you have nothing here. As a matter of fact, I wish I had an abortion with you. So, and ever since I was a little kid, we never gotten along. She always had this against me, I guess. When I was a kid, I remember she told me that she wishes I committed suicide. That's how bad it was. So she left my dad in the old house. So in his older years, after him working hard and taking care of even children that were not his, my mother left him there to fend for himself. So at that point, my father was paying someone to wash his clothes, someone to cook for him. The neighbor was doing that. So he paid for the basic necessities. Needless to say, when he passed away, his pension went to my mother. But she just left him there. So when he got sick after the fall, the neighbor took care of him, while my mother was living a grand life at the new house. When he passed away, I got a set of his clothes, which I still have at my house. I know exactly where they are. My father was my idol. He was the man that couldn't do no wrong in my eyes. And I don't remember ever seeing him doing something wrong. When there were fights with the neighbors, when the neighbors were fighting, my mother would go stand by the fence and listen to them fight. So my father would yell, "Hey guys, if you need a witness, she's over there listening to you guys." That's the kind of man that he was, He was, I call him, he was a giant of a man. I really, really wish that I had the means back then to bring him up here and rest for a few days, just take it easy and rest and show him the United States and enjoy himself. And I don't know why, but I always think that if he would have come up here, he would have loved a baked potato with cheese. Why that comes to my mind, I don't know, but I think he would have loved a baked potato with cheese. And I always say that I wish I could have brought him up here and gave him that potato and cheese. But he was, I don't know, he was my idol, my daddy, I miss him terribly. His wisdom, oh my goodness. His wisdom. He always had a very philosophical kind of way to address things, say things. He was a very, very philosophical man, very smart guy. I always said that my mother's lineage came to ruin my father's lineage because no one on her side of the family that we know of has any kind of education or aspiring to something better. And I'm talking about, education in itself. I'm not saying money. I'm not saying anything of that sort. I'm saying education, and strive to, learn new things every day. My father was that. His lineage is very powerful. His kindness was he was a kind man. You couldn't tell who he was. His kindness, his philosophy, his his not education, but smart intelligence. That's what I meant. His intelligence. You could tell by looking at him. He was just this plain little old man, though, at the end of his days walked with a cane. But he was always learning something. He was always listening to the radio to learn something new. Back in those days, I think they had some like forums. That's what, they're called today, forums. And he would just listen to those and learn. But he could never tell what an amazing man he was. So I'm very proud to be his daughter. I am humble to have his lineage. I just wish, I had another day with my dad, just to tell him, I love you, Daddy. That's what I wish. Yeah, he was a good man. He was a great man. So on that note, and before I ruin my mascara, if you have a great dad, take care of him. Tell him, I love you, Dad. Because it's going to come a day when he's not going to be here anymore. And good fathers are very hard to find. So, take care of your dad. Hold his hand. Look into his eyes. And tell him you love him. So, on that note, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you on my next video. Thank you. And Carpe Diem.